All right, so the whole purpose of me creating this Patreon, it's a weird name. The whole purpose is I want to help people, and I only want to help those who truly feel that I can help them. And I believe that just by watching a few videos, um, maybe even just a little bit of a video, or maybe you'll take some time to really decide if I'm going to help you or not. You'll be able to see quite fast if I'm going to be someone who you'll be able to take advice from that will truly benefit you on your path. When I say path, I don't mean which path. I don't mean dark path or light path or any of that, but just your path. I don't instruct, I just share my experiences. If I start teaching anything that I know nothing of, or just something that I heard, that would be only for, you know, thinking purposes rather than, hey, I'm telling you what is or what isn't. Um, I've always been that way. I think a lot of people confuse and misunderstand me. And if you're also one of those kind of people that wonder why, like throughout your life, why have you been looked at a certain way? What was it that caused, you know, when I was dressing goth, as they call it, I didn't even know that they called it goth. I didn't go around telling people that I'm of the goth culture, that I am of gothic community. I never even said the word goth all through my childhood, teenage years, and young adult years. I never said that because even if I would have known that term, I would have said, "Well, I'm not just gothic. I like all kinds of things. I like rap, R&B. I like, pretty much anything that sounds good to my ears. And then people say, "Oh, anything, huh? Oh, that's why you're where you're at." No, I don't look at bad things I hear as toxic or traumatic because I learn from them. Uh, there was a big thing, the Satanic Panic, and I believe it's going to happen again because I believe it's been happening over and over again for throughout all of time, going back to when people just feared, you know, shooting stars, as they probably would. And they probably didn't call them shooting stars, but they'd see, oh, look at that star flying across the sky on fire. What is that? That must be our gods warning us. We've always had imaginative fears, and we always will. They evolve over time. Now our fears are more digital. They're more like, oh man, we're all of our bank accounts are going to be shut down. We're all going to be drawn into this robotic system, and it's going to be controlled by a bunch of people who are just running our lives through computers. And that's a logical fear because it could happen. Sure, computers could be a destructive thing, but so can a tornado, so can nature. So it's the nature of our existence that there's always going to be something that can destruct us. It's not about trying to stop it because we can't stop it. If we look at nature more deeply and more spiritually, it doesn't mean that we're pagan or we're witches or we're any kind of nature worshipers, so we're against God and America. That's nonsense. If God created nature, then why in the hell would I feel bad for looking at it and analyzing it and trying to understand it? God said, seek and you will find. Or Jesus or whoever, or Muhammad, whoever you want to say, Shiva, Krishna, Buddha, everyone knows that message throughout time, no matter what culture, religion. Seek and you will find. How will you find anything if you just constantly stay in a fear shock state of mind where you're like, I'm not going to seek anything there because I might find something I don't like. As a kid, I felt that way, but I would get curious, like, well, I wonder what I will find. Is it going to be that bad, or will it be good and it's just all a lie? Because I knew what it was like to be lied to when I was first told that God created all of us, and He created us in His own image. Oh, well, isn't that convenient? If I was going to create a new species, I would love to just create them exactly like me. and then say, well, that's because we're all equal. We're all the same. And then I think, is that why I had to look the same and act the same and be the same as everyone else when I was growing up? Was that the reason that I was judged? Because I wouldn't fall into that protocol? Is that godly? Is that divine? I would say no, God would want that of any creation. He wouldn't want people to lack creativity and not be unique and just all be. Wouldn't that be like the fear of everyone walking around staring at their phones as they walk and just all, going, did you see my tweet? Will you follow me? They make fun of shit like that, but they follow a culture, a religious tradition that basically they believe tells them to do that. And I think that's bullshit completely, which makes me a Gnostic in most ways, spiritually. I don't have one religion. I don't have one tradition or one idea that I go by. I don't have one, book that I believe in that's better than all the other books. I don't believe any books are better than any other books if I'm reading them for spiritual gain, knowledge, wisdom. I think the only way you're going to gain the most knowledge from anything is if you look at everything. Because if you choose to not look at certain things, then how are you going to gain more wisdom than the person who's looking at all of it? We can't. And people say, well, you can't look at everything, and you can become obsessed. And yeah, I've done that, but man, at the end, I learned so much from it. But I also wasted a little too much time. So that's where self-control comes into play. And I realized, man, I got to start thinking about when I dive too deep into something. Sure, I'm learning, but there's probably a lot of other healthy and positive things I could be doing in the middle to keep my mind and my body and my spirit healthy. So growing up, like I said, the Gothic thing, now would be, people would say, oh, so what was the Gothic culture and community like when you were growing up? I don't fucking know. I didn't read Gothic magazines. I read metal magazines. I read, stories, interesting stories. I liked theory. I liked ideas. I liked truth. I like true stories. Good and bad. They all were interesting to me. I liked movies. I liked music. I liked art. But I'm not artistic at all. I can't draw past a stick figure. It was more of a mental, artistic nature that I've always had. So many of us walk around and wonder, why is this happening to me? And there's a reason for each of us. If you say, hey, I feel just like you, and I was also goth, and I listened to a lot of the same stuff I was listening to all different music, and I was unique, and I felt the way that you say, and all this. As soon as you say that, you'll get done and go, yeah, but I'm not really like him. It's because none of us are like someone else completely. So therefore, to be equal to everyone is a matter of looking within. It's a matter of looking within ourselves and saying, this is me. And that person is similar to me, but also quite different in many other ways as well. But that person is still equal to me. Therefore, that person should be treated the same in the court of law. That person should be treated the same in the community, unless something unlawful is done by either of us. That's the only part where we will become separated and not be equal anymore. I'm not equal to a Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy or any of those people. I can't, that's the only kind of unimaginable thought I have, is to think I could be like that, because I couldn't. I'm not that kind of a person. I don't have that thought. But at the same time, I don't just say they're monsters, because they're not. They're human beings. They were born just like we were. They lived a life early on that may have been more traumatic, may have been, something that we really we can imagine, but not embrace and grasp fully, because we weren't there. Just like someone saying, you haven't walked in anyone else's shoes, and just like you haven't walked in mine. So I look at those people, the school shooters, the serial killers, the rapists, and all these, the drug addicts, and so much, the robberies that happen, the thieves, the political criminals, and all these people. And I think, man, as much as I would love to figure out how they got to that point, they probably wouldn't even be able to explain it themselves, because psychologically they never wanted to be that, even if they say they did. Usually they don't, but even if they said, I wanted to be a school shooter, we know that's bullshit inside of us. We know that's bullshit. No one would want to be that. That's the psychological damage that happened somewhere or along the line, to where their tolerance of their surroundings became very bleak, it became very distorted. They lost faith in themselves, which, if you lose faith in yourself, you will lose anything godly, divine within you, because the whole point of Holy Scripture and divine wisdom and God's truth is to do what for you when you read it? To encourage you, to give you strength, that you find a motivational purpose for why you're going through even the worst of times. So I hope I can help someone and make a difference in this mental health issue that we've had for a long time. It's not new. It's not a new epidemic. It's not like a new disease or a new plague. It's been a plague since the beginning of humanity, because we all have disorders, because none of us are mentally similar. We all have different thoughts. That's what makes the world beautiful, but can also destroy us, because beauty and destruction are one and the same until we learn to distinguish the difference between the two. And it's not always the same for someone else as it is for you either. Some people might believe that a extremely overweight person is more beautiful than a skinny person. And then you might say, oh, I'm not going to date an overweight person. I like skinnier people. Well, which one's right? Neither, because it's a preference. When we take preference and the ability to think for ourselves and accept the differences of others, and we cause a massive debate over who's right when there is no right or wrong, that is mass hysteria, and that's the new satanic panic. It's not about witches now. It's not about who's sagging their pants or spiking their hair. It's about the littlest things you can even think of. The fact that maybe someone doesn't think the same as you do when it comes to what books should be taught in school. And you're like, what are you talking about? I mean, I want things to be right. And they go, no, I know what you want. You want race. You want people to learn about racism. Well, I mean, I believe that it would be a good subject to cover. And they go, oh yeah, you want it covered all your way. No. And I mean, why would anyone? I mean, I'm not saying why would anybody do that, because sure people would, but do you really think that's a massive worldwide epidemic? That all people who stand up against racism are going around trying to, yeah, we're going to teach them to hate all white people. Do you know how old and barbaric that even sounds when you say it out loud? That kids are being taught how to hate white people and hate themselves for being white because of our racist past. When I watched the KKK, I'm easily someone who could have been of the KKK. I'm from Indiana. I'm white. Grew up in a conservative community, conservative family. Knew very few black people or anyone from other cultures or races. I literally was surrounded by all white people. Basically, you could call them rednecks. I'm basically a redneck if you want to classify me as a worldly being. So if I look at the KKK and the history of it, shouldn't I think, oh, that's me? No. Do I feel bad for the people who were abused? But do I go, wow, I wish I was not connected to that? No, I don't think that at all, because it has nothing to do with me. I wasn't there. I wasn't of that time. I wasn't of them people. And if I would have been in there in that time, I know I wouldn't have been that kind of person, because the person I am is not capable of being that kind of person. So what I'm learning, because it's nice to know the history of things. And if we distort the history of things, or we try to exaggerate things for our own purpose to gain or gain something over of someone else. In other words, let's not teach about racism. Therefore, Black Lives Matter would never ever be a thing again because we would think racism's not a problem. Standing up against police who are killing people that are of minority, that'll never be a protest thing, and no one will be protesting that later because they won't have any fucking clue what happened before. They just say, what do you mean black people are dying? What do you mean there's people who are dying more than white people? They say, oh, because you didn't look through the past and go, yeah, I tried. There's just not much there to look at. That's just conspiracy, right? They want to make the truth a conspiracy, and reality to them, their reality would become the new normal. And that's terrifying, and that's what I'm against. And I want to get people to understand themselves, not me necessarily, because I may never understand you and you may never understand me. But if you do not understand yourself, then you could end up being one of those people that say, I want to be a killer or I want to be a thief. But you would say it and know that that's not true. I don't want people, especially children, growing up and getting those wrong ideas in their head that they know are wrong, but they do them anyway because they're traumatically damaged mentally and psychologically and spiritually because someone told them, without Jesus, you're nothing. No, without yourself, you're nothing. Then you would be dead. You would be, if you decide that you do not know, if you decide you no longer embrace yourself, that means that you now want to die. And that's the beginning, because we all still fight against death, no matter if we want to die or not. But that constant battle and tension will lead to a destructive event and likely hurt many others, because you won't be in your right mind because you believe that your mind is not worthy and you're not worthy. And that's 100% false for anyone. You are worthy. You are you. And what makes you, you, is your thoughts and creative destiny that is set out for you to create on your own. Thank you.